Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you. Welcome, Shan Shan. Beautiful Essex name, said the pub landlord. I know you've heard it 1,000 times before, but I feel the need, I feel the desire to emphasize, and I can't emphasize it enough, that I don't know what I'm talking about. You can go and see people who will tell you they do. And all I just don't doubt that they don't. So when you think you know something, that is exactly what it is, thinking I know something. And of course, when all knowledge is thinking I know something, not I know something, that might sound the most subtle of differences. And in a way, it is incredibly subtle, that difference, because the knowledge remains. But it kind of, it empties the knowing out of any substance. And the whole idea that you'd have to get rid of knowledge and understanding in order to have no understanding and no knowledge, that becomes a joke as well. So it's not that knowledge would disappear. But there's no store set by it at all. It's empty. It's a relative reality. It's what most spiritual teachers would call the illusory reality, you know, just by naming something, and knowing is naming. That thing exists separately from everything else. And then you can have all the relationships between all those separate things. And that's knowledge and understanding. Not that remains. But it could just be simply outrageously obvious that that's all knowledge and understanding is. Naming, describing, and then, of course, explaining how this came to be, the reasons why, how and why, cause and effect. And again, that remains. I was a geography teacher. If you ask me, I can give you not a great explanation, but some explanation of why the weather is as it is today. I can talk about pressure systems. I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm talking about, but I learned it just like you did when you learned shit. And you can regurgitate that. Literally vomit it up. as knowledge and wisdom. But it's it doesn't really explain the weather, and the weather doesn't need an explanation. It simply is as it is. You don't need an explanation. What you've called yourself is simply as it is. Everything is simply as it is, isn't it? It's so outrageously obvious as to not be worth speaking about. And so when people ask me what I speak about, and I say I speak about what is, and they go, well, isn't that obvious? And I go, yeah, of course it is. So why are you speaking about the obvious? I said, because that's all there is. And the illusion is, you know how it is and why it is and what it is. None of that. The liberation, for want of a better word, the liberation and the freedom is that regardless of knowledge, regardless of understanding, despite any of that, everything is as it is. And of course, that's inclusive of all the knowing, the seeming knowing, and the seeming understanding. That's as it is too. It's not, there's no conflict. I always had the idea that I would have to get rid of it, just like I'd have to get rid of myself. So if I get rid of myself, then there would be no understanding and there'd be no knowledge. Well, it's not a problem. It's empty. Just lovely ideas. And it's beautiful that human beings are so clever. It's not so beautiful that they're full of the arrogance of self that thinks it's really important, that self-importance. That's not so beautiful. But even that is as it is. And really all self is a denial of this is as it is, and it couldn't be other than it is. And again, even that is as it is. So when you're speaking to somebody and they're in their story and they're telling you their story that they're totally invested in, and it really grates on you because you know that's bullshit. It's not bullshit. Well, it is, but it's no more bullshit than anything else. This story that it's all stories is just as much bullshit. And there's wonderful freedom in that too. If I thought I knew what I was speaking about, I don't think I could speak about it. Because I'd be so worried about getting it wrong. You probably feel that you'd like to talk to people about this. But then whilst there's this sense of, yeah, but I'm not worthy. I'm not up to that. I'll leave that to the experts. There are no experts. No one knows anything at all about what we're speaking of. You would have to know everything. And even more importantly, you would have to know nothing. Now, you can't know nothing. Because if you knew nothing, you wouldn't be able to speak to start with, and you wouldn't be able to think, and there would be nothing, and there would be nothing to say. So the speaking of this is wonderfully futile, beautifully pointless, amazingly meaningless. And in that is all the beauty and all the love. Life isn't meaningful, and yet there is meaning. Your ideas, our ideas, thoughts, beliefs about what matters. Nothing matters. But that isn't to say things don't matter. Mattering just happens or not. You don't have any say in what appears to matter. The best analogy I've got for that is falling in love. I mean, the most obvious, and I can talk to anyone about this, even if they've not, because this isn't anyone who would be very anti any non-dual speak at all, will there's almost universal agreement on you don't get any say in who you fall in love with. Now, there's a real clue in that. That is how life is. And that's why we say madly in love, because it feels like madness to self, because self feels out of control. And of course, loves it and is terrified of it. So love is equally hugely attractive. It's what virtually everyone desires most. All selves desire it most and fear it most. So you long to surrender totally to the other in this bliss of surrender, and are terrified of giving up your power and your autonomy. And I'm guessing most of you have felt that. Well, that's the whole of life, is that. This is falling in love, literally falling. With your pathetic, futile attempts to control and manage it. It can feel like for self, I remember this feeling of walking to the edge, of being on the edge, on the cliff, right on the edge, wanting really to fall, terrified of falling. Well, the wonderful news is there is no edge. This doesn't have an edge. There's no boundary, there's no edge to go up to, and there's no edge to go over. If you stepped over the edge, or you were pushed over the edge, or dragged screaming and kicking over the edge, because there's only falling, there's no falling. This is always falling away, disappearing as it appears. So the one who is afraid of falling the one that was afraid of not being in control, not being grounded, not being able to stand. Never was. There's no one standing or falling, just seeming standing, seeming falling. There's no edges here. There's no outside. . And so there can be disappointment that there's no arrival. You've been longing to, if you've been longing to arrive wherever you'd fantasize you could arrive at, even if it's the arrival of nowhere. Well, there's no nowhere any more than there is somewhere. So no matter what sort of mental gymnastics you might be able to do about trying to work this out, they just don't lead you to a destination. There isn't a resting place. All this is seeming movement, not moving. You can't actually go anywhere. This is everywhere. And I guess again that you've had the experience of you've traveled, physically traveling, I mean, and you get to the destination and there's a very palpable sense of exactly the same. This doesn't move. This is totally still. The illusion is of movement. So there is seeming movement. This appears to move, but doesn't move. It's not all good news because it does annihilate, you know, all your plans of where you might get to. Because even if you do planning, you know it. You know you won't get there. They'll just be there or not. Because there is here, isn't it? That's what we're saying. Over there is here. Spatially, here and there are not two. Temporally, in time, now and then are not two. That's it, really. And you take out space and time as concrete realities, then there's simply no knowing. Because if there's no difference between now and then and here and there, you start sounding like Dr. Seuss when you speak to people. And I've been accused of being the love child of Ricky Gervais and Dr. Seuss, which is which is absolutely lovely because I love them both. I still read Dr. Seuss to my son whenever he stays with me. From here to there, from there to here. Funny things are everywhere. Well, lovely to see you all. Yeah, if you want to ask anything or share anything, then just put your hand up.
Stefan.
Stefan. Go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, I just basically wanted a more clarification, not clarification at all, just sort of is it true to say then, like, any knowing, um, so any knowing, like literally any knowing, like I can't even like elaborate on that. Like it's just basically uh illusory or false or for want of a better word, kind of bullshitty. Like any kind of that's kind of the gist of what I got from what you were saying. Is that kind of accurate way of putting it? Because there's always this impulse to know here. In fact, in non-dual spirituality, it's like knowing the law. There's insights left, right, and center, you know, and people share them, and I resonate with them, and I come up with my own. Um, so yeah, I just wanted. I suppose that's my question is, but there's also a sense here that it's all bullshit. It's all a hamster wheel, like everything, like literally everything. So that's my question. Like, can we be that kind of fundamentalist with this? Like, is all knowing kind of bullshit, basically?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, when everything, when all ideas, you know, when whatever we're sharing, and all thoughts are just ideas about this, then you could, of course, in one sense, you can say it's all bullshit. And of course, this non-dual speaking is no less bullshit than any other bullshit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Relatively, this is less bullshitty than some other ways of speaking. but again, I mean, that's bullshit too. Because it's all relative. As soon as we're sharing, we're just all language is dualistic. There's no way around that. There is no way. Anyone who thinks they can speak in a non-dual way is again, that's a complete illusion. You can kid yourself if you want, and I think there are people who do kid themselves that what they speak is the truth. Well, I would steer clear of them. There you go. That's my advice for what it's worth. Because again, you might all truths are relative. There is no truth. You know, the whole what I want to convey is that all the seeking for the truth, as though there is an absolute truth, is just more of the same. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it might be recognized as more of the same, and then that is the end of the search. And really, all we're speaking about is the end of the search for this absolute truth, this all-knowing. The end of the road. Well, there isn't a road, and so of course there can't be an end to it. This hasn't you haven't got to where you are, and you can't get from where you are. And of course that is the end of the search. If there isn't a journey, that is the end of the road, because there's no road. You didn't actually arrive at where you are. So how are you going to leave it to get somewhere else? And it can sound like, I mean, I hear other speakers, and I've spoken about it quite a bit today, about not knowing, but not knowing can just sound like another knowing, of course. Self can't really hear it as other than that. So I could know that I don't know. No, you won't know that you don't know. You can only know that you know. The not knowing isn't. Not knowing is really funny, because not knowing can only sound like it's something, but what I'm trying to point at, that it's not. All the knowing is not knowing. And so then, of course, what I'm suggesting is that knowing isn't a problem. So just like self isn't the enemy, that self has taken itself to be. Knowing, self is quite happy to substitute itself for knowing. And that's what I need to get rid of. So I need to get rid of this sense of knowing, and then I'll be there. Well, you fucking won't. You won't get anywhere. There's nowhere to get to. You can't get here. It is that simple. And so you can do all the practices you want to be present, because that's here. To be in the now, because that's here and now. But all thoughts of elsewhere, they're equally here and now, aren't they? There's no exclusion. The most wonderful, liberating, outrageously full of love news is that you can't have it, you can't get it. It's already, this is all. Including all the knowing and not knowing, all the questions, all the answers, all the love, all the sorrow, all the despair, all the longing, all the things that you thought, well, maybe I've heard people can get rid of that and then they'll live in a permanent state of bliss and happiness. Well, if there was a permanent state of bliss and happiness, how the fuck would you know bliss and happiness? Come on, you have to throw a bit of sorrow in to know any sort of joy, obviously. So there's no exclusions. This is, I can't emphasize enough, Stefan, that this is not about a state of not knowing. There's not knowing is not a state or it's not a realization. It's just simply that knowing is empty. That's the not knowing. Everything is empty. There's just what seems to be happening. And what seems to be happening just seems to be happening. And that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi there. Hi. Oh. You know what? Like that knowing, not knowing thing, like it doesn't really matter. But when you think your life should go one way or another, I feel like there's a lot of blaming. Like I wanted to know who was responsible and why this is happening and how could this be? And it's almost like you could blame someone, sure, go ahead. And that pointing finger is just as empty as everything else.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of left in this place like, I mean, yeah, sure, opinions come up. Yeah, you're right, you're wrong. But really, I mean, it's just as empty as, I mean, I might as well blame a limb of a tree falling on my car and yell at it. I mean, I could blame nothing. I don't think it would mind.
No. No.
You just get to this.
No, I mean, it's not the blaming, because the whole thing about in spirituality, of course, if you became enlightened, you wouldn't blame anyone anymore. No, I'm not saying.
No, you
become some sort of saint. Oh no,
right.
the blaming is more. I would say it's more likely not. less.
Yes.
Somebody cuts me up in traffic, they're getting the full works. They're getting all the gestures,
Yeah.
screaming, shouting, until they look aggressive and bigger than me, and then I'm locking my door and driving off. But you know, reaction, blaming reactions is totally natural.
Normal, natural. It just comes
doesn't,
up.
yeah,
Boom.
yeah, it's not about any of that.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter.
No, but the thing is, it's the same with all reactions. When there's a reaction, if it's not if it just happens, it's over. I mean, it is incredibly how quickly emotions disappear. That's, I would say, maybe that's,
yeah.
I can still be shocked at somebody will say, well, why are you angry? And I'm already not angry. It's only just like it's 2 seconds later and I've shouted or something. I don't know. I don't even know what I've done, but there's been a reaction. And then I go, why are you angry? And I go, and then I'm looking at, what do you mean? I'm not angry. Because it's gone.
Yeah. Right. Well, without that story
it's already,
I have to hold on to it. It's mine to protect.
Well, and of course there is I have to accept responsibility for it. So I have to ruminate on it and go to my anger management class and realize how I can better manage my atrocious behavior.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with all that. It sounds terrible. But yeah, I'd rather hang out here. The pure ones are kind of like not fun. The pure ones. The good ones, the ones being good, they're just not as much fun,
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So if you've always tried to be nice, which most of us have, we were all brought up to be good boys and girls, weren't we? You know.
Oh yeah.
Because we were really afraid. We always wanted to be bad, but we were afraid of being bad because you'll get punished and you'll get ostracized, and you know you'll be. But what a lot of what is natural for a human being to feel, we've been very, very heavily conditioned to be wrong when it's not wrong at all.
Right. Yeah.
I don't mean that others will like it.
Others hate it.
Don't think that
they hate it.
They really will, because
they do.
Yeah, because I mean, I've had it leveled to me. You used to be nice. What happened to you? So depending on how I feel, I might say I fucking died. See what they say to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I used to be too nice, and now I'm not nice.
Absolutely.
Enough.
I mean,
you just can't please anyone. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy pleasing people still.
I like it, sure.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Being nice to people is lovely, but you know,
I just don't need to.
You don't.
If I mean, if I can't, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Yeah. If I say something shitty, I mean, it just comes out. But so, everyone's exonerated. I mean, there isn't something inside, someone inside something that I could say, hey, there's just the self is just so,
I mean, I find myself saying sorry much more, and I was I didn't like saying sorry. Self-hate saying fucking sorry. I hated it. Losing face. I'm gonna stick. They'll say sorry. When there's an argument, they'll say sorry before I'll go to my death before I admit defeat. Now there's no pride, so there's no pride, and I quite like apologizing and saying, I think I acted like a complete arsehole.
Right. You don't have anything to lose. What do you have to lose? How
lovely.
How beautiful.
Yeah, and of course, when all human beings are all assholes, there are no holy ones. Wow, that's unconditional love right there. Who ever dreamt, who taught us that every human being is just an asshole? Waiting to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like that's just in everything you see, you know, TV, people you speak to, you know, there's always got to be an issue or a problem. Oh, well, that's as it is, you know, even though there isn't a problem, you
Yeah.
know, it may appear so. Okay. I don't know. I
Okay.
just like talking to you.
Thanks.
Especially after the messages I sent you when I told you about that silly, I don't know,
Oh no,
the
that's
glimpse, the stupid glimpse. And then I
no,
was like,
that's fine.
thank God for someone like, you know, these people here that I can talk to about this and
Yeah.
then not get all wrapped up in it. Because
Well,
I could see where that would happen. That's never happened. And so I could see where there would be like this curiosity and, oh, what is that? I gotta figure that out.
yeah,
And after just hearing whatever, you know, and just the obviousness of the way things are, um, not being able to get somewhere else, that was just kind of like it just fell flat, you know, rather than going into it and seeking out what was that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, yeah, I think we're lucky that we can go to Zoom meetings now and just meet
I
up. It's
Oh my God, I love it.
yeah, because otherwise, I mean, there is an aloneness with this that can feel very isolating. Because who the hell do you talk to? I mean, really,
No one. Yeah.
I
Well,
I
I've
felt
told
that,
you I've tried
I felt that intensely for years. You know, there was just
for
me.
years.
Yeah, there was just me and the books. So the books were like my companions. So I talked to the
Yeah,
books. Really, that's what I did
right.
a lot of years. Oh, at least the book understands, kind of thing.
Right. That's right. Yeah. It's nice. Nice talking with you.
And yeah, you too, Nolan. Lovely to see you.
Thanks, you too.
So this is completely alone, and the aloneness can feel overwhelming when I mean that's a big part of the not knowing, that you don't know any others. There aren't any others. You've never known another. So the not knowing, I mean, there's no greater not knowing than I don't know who and what I am. And of course, I have no way of knowing who or what you are. The whole illusion of knowing each other just collapses. And there is this all pervasive aloneness. There's no outside, there's no inside. I mean, there's the duality. The duality really is that most human beings live in, that they don't really ever question. The majority of human beings, it seems, have never questioned this, that there is this huge gulf, this vast space between inside and outside, and there is no crossing it. And I long to cross it. I just long to be in union with the other. And the other can be another human being. That's the most common, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, if you're spiritually inclined, you have to fantasize about the great other, who that I could become one with God, with consciousness, with the universe, with the Holy Spirit, with nature. I mean, there's no end to what the mind can fantasize, and we tend to go with whatever we've been conditioned. So if you've been brought up a Christian, then you long to be with Jesus, just so that there isn't this wonderfully terrible, dreadful aloneness. because this is the impossibility of union with another. There isn't anything else. So what you long for is the end of your fantasy. But of course you don't long for that. You want the fulfillment of that. Well, there is no fulfillment to come. This is fulfilled. This is the only fulfillment. This emptiness is completely full. And now that's not what you want. Whatever you desire is always something else. It's always leading away. Is always a denial. And why I say it's dreadful is because your dreams can't come true, whatever they are. So it's very annihilating in that, destructive. And it doesn't leave you anywhere to go. And you can pretend that's what you want, but I can't emphasize enough that it's not. This is not what you want. Whatever you want is always something else, somewhere else. Of course it is. If it was here, you wouldn't want it.
Razia has a hand up.
Hi, Razia.
Hi, I read this.
Hi,
Hi,
Razia.
Hi. I read this recently. I don't know if it was Rumi who said, I can't teach you, but love will teach you.
Yeah.
And I find that it's true because somehow or the other, when we do something and maybe it is against whatever, I don't know. I'm just playing with words now. Like if it's against our true nature, right? I mean, there's no true nature, it's just nature, right? It's against our nature, then somehow or the other we are corrected. You think that may be true? Like sometimes, like I do something and then there's guilt attached to that. Then I say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore because it makes me feel guilty. Kind of a thing. But this is like now talking about this human experience, this being human, where we feel guilt, where we feel the need that there are times when we need to ask for forgiveness because that is what is expected, in that situation. And we do all these things. But there is this love that corrects us, when we do certain things that go against our nature, then we feel that, no, I mean, this is not right. Like recently, my mother fell and she got a fracture, right? And I was sitting next to her bed and I could like feel her, what she was.
Have you frozen?
Yeah, she has.
Razia's frozen. Here's Razia.
Sorry, forgive. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, like Yeah, sometimes we are like, we do stuff that is not in our nature. I don't know how we do this, but it's like when the need is there, you do it. Like love corrects you and makes you want to do the right thing. That's all I can say.
You see, I don't think love teaches us anything. Love hasn't got anything to teach.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree with that, but that's how
No,
I
I
felt.
really,
Like, you know,
no, there's no,
I
no,
feel a pain here if I do something wrong, or I feel a headache or
Razia,
something.
Razia, you've never done anything wrong. How, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the most wonderful news is that you have never done anything wrong. Isn't that incredible? But there is a downside. You've never done anything right either.
Because there's no you.
No, there's no right. No, there's no right or wrong. Right and wrong exists in the mind of each human being. They are the arbiter, the judge, the jury, the fucking executioner if you live with them. But that right and wrong simply mean that's you know, there is nature has no, I don't know how I don't doubt this, but I don't doubt it at all. Nature has no idea of right and wrong, of good and evil, of correct and incorrect. There is no incorrect. And so you hear some speakers talk about perfection. But of course, that's the biggest bullshit of all.
Yeah.
You know, because perfect is it couldn't, there's two ways of looking at perfect. In one sense, I could say this is perfect because it couldn't be otherwise. Now, if that's what you mean by perfect, this is perfect. But most people don't. They mean this is perfection, where you could not find fault. Well, we are experts in finding fault. That's what human beings are. That's our genius, really. We find fault. We look for solutions. We see problems where there are none, and we look for solutions. And by problems, really, all we mean is it would be better for me if that's so there, and then I try and find the solution. But yeah, there is no. No one's ever done anything wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose if you go back to Rumi and he says, I'll meet you there, you know?
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with doing what upsets someone else. And there's nothing wrong with apologizing because you feel sad that you've upset them. I mean, but that isn't right either. The problem with the whole notion of love, of doing the loving thing, the love that I'm speaking about is both all the loving and all the hating. That's where it becomes tricky to use the word love. But you know, there is no exclusion. Everything is love, even the least loving. And by love, I really mean innocence. And by innocence, I really mean that it couldn't be other than it is. And if that's seen, that it's really impossible to not, for that to be unseen. And I think what self is a defense against seeing the obviousness that life is simply as it is, and it's undeniable. So self is the denial of that. I'm always arguing with life as it is. That's what I do. That's my job.
Yeah, and also what I was going to say, like the other day I was talking to this person and they were talking about relationships. And suddenly it didn't make sense to me because I said, with a relationship with who, like, you know? And it didn't make sense. It's like, and he's talking about his relationship with Jesus. And I said, but I mean, there's only Jesus, or there's only you. But I mean, there can't be Jesus and you. It didn't make sense. But I don't know, like whether, Because I mean, they would still say we live in a duality where there is the
I would
a
say that
duality.
I would say the relationship between that you might have with Jesus is just as real as the relationship you might have with your lover, you know, the other human
Yeah.
being, because you know,
Well, not real, just as unreal.
yeah.
Thank you.
But that isn't to say it wouldn't feel real, though.
Yeah. I know that.
No,
Yes,
they
yes.
feel very real. Yeah. Thanks, Razia.
Mary Rose has a hand up. Thanks for
Mary
being so
Rose.
patient, Mary.
Yeah.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
So do you notice that there's not ruminating anymore, and analyzing and thoughts about, you know, what happened and what role you played in that, or does that still all come up? Because I'm, wondering, like, there's a lot of, I guess, do you even say, like, oh, that's just a story, or is that just another thought? I mean,
No, I don't.
how does that, yeah.
No, I might say that to my when there's thoughts, the thought might come up. Oh, that's just another story. I'm very careful not to tell the others when they're telling me their story that it's just another story.
Right. I meant for yourself.
So, oh, for myself, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But it's not that there couldn't be ruminating over stuff. Yeah, that's again, it's natural.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, this isn't about anything stopping. Whatever you are hoping to get rid of, you are. I know. Going to non-duality meetings, hopefully that, you know, some of the shit that you don't like about yourself and about your life will stop.
I mean, I was maybe at that place at one point, but now, like, when you talk about, aloneness, for me, that's like a peace. There's this
Yeah.
really deep, intense peace. It's not like lonely. Yes, there's aloneness, but it's not, it's this disconnection. I can't even call it disconnection, but it's okay.
Yes. Yeah, I probably should emphasize the okayness more than I do.
Okay.
But the peace that passes all understanding is the aloneness. Yeah.
Because even though you see the sorrow and whatever is going on, you know that it just couldn't be any other way. I guess another question I have is,
Did I answer your first question?
yeah, I think you did. There is, for the character, I guess everything is just variable there. You might have
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You wanted to know whether there was, rumination.
situation and all
Yeah.
that.
I would say that, I mean, you have to try and remember how, and I mean, sometimes that would be when it was really, I was a functioning neurotic.
Mm-hmm.
I probably still am if I spoke to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'd have to be very wary about saying that there is no one here, obviously, because then you get depersonalization disorder.
Oh, yeah, of course.
As the normal neurotic diagnosis. But I mean, self is neurotic. So I would say that there's the thought, but without the neurosis. That's the closest I could get to describing it. And the neurotic bit is, oh, this is terrible. And of course, then what am I going to do about it? And so then that feeds the neurosis of trying to find a solution.
Is there some degree of, for lack of a better word, we'll just use dualistic terms here because that's all I have, but it's like self-improvement. In other words, you recognize that something happened and you would do it differently in the future, without this, big story behind it. You just kind of, oh, okay. And I mean, how does that unfold?
That doesn't.
It doesn't. So everything is just
No,
whatever
unfortunately,
happened.
I mean, that is tricky because people still want you to change to fit them.
Right.
I don't have, there's no motivation for self-improvement. That is the death of me. I am a self-improvement program. That's what I am. Without I, there is no self to improve. There is no motivation to improve at all. It's like complete liberate. The liberation is for all those parts that you rejected, I rejected of myself, that were not worthy, were not good enough, that I was criticized for, were the reason why I was a shit husband, a shit lover, a shit son. All of that is liberated.
So, but as far as like what arises, discomfort never arises with
Oh yeah. Oh no.
and you say, well, okay, that happened. Not that I'm not a guilt or shame associated with it, but just an awareness that, okay, that was what it was. And, is there a thought that,
I tell you what, I mean,
I guess it goes into the future again, and then you're saying,
I get what you're saying. Really, all there is an apology. If someone's upset by my behavior and my attitude, I'll say, I'm sorry.
feel it warrants it.
But really, I'm not. The thing about this sorriness, and you mustn't tell anyone this, and you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
I know what you're going to say.
You can't tell them that you're not really sorry, because you're not. I'm not really sorry, but I am sorry that they're upset. But I'm not sorry that to the point where I'm going to really work hard to try and adapt my behavior so that they won't be upset again.
Right, yeah.
Which is what I would have done. And that's where, I mean, that's pretty much the root of all suffering. That I need to change because I'm not good enough, and I will be rejected for being what I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I am is not good enough. That's why if I am is already good enough, then of course there wouldn't be any need for self-improvement, would there?
Right.
And it's not that I am good enough, by the way. It's that I'm neither good enough nor bad enough.
Or that there's not a good or bad.
Exactly the
It's
same.
just what it is. Yeah.
So there's no one to be good or bad, and there's no good or bad. There is just how it is. And
Wow.
and really all my attempts to improve what I've called myself is really just to beat myself with a fucking stick.
Yeah.
In the most noble way. Of course, this is what, I mean, we're so indoctrinated that self-improvement is a positive thing, and wonder why a quarter of the American population are on antidepressants.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main reasons would be because they're not good enough and they need to improve themselves. That would be one of the main reasons. I don't doubt that. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just how it is.
Right.
But to answer your question, no self-improvement. Now, there's an exception. There's an exception. Golf is the exception. I am still trying to improve at golf.
Okay. That's interesting. So there's like a frustrate, or not even like things just, I guess there's no formula for this.
No, absolutely not.
That's the
No, there is no.
common
No,
denominator.
I mean, don't get there's you can go to 100 different speakers who will each give you their formula. Of course, there's no limit to the formulas that people could come up with, but they're just more self-improvement, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
No, there is no formula for this. This doesn't need a formula, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And this can't be improved because it is.
And isn't.
Absolutely. So, yeah, there's no improving what is always is.
Okay. That answers that.
And there's no, yeah, it doesn't require a formula or a solution, or
It's final.
there's nothing to be fixed. I mean, really, the liberation is that there's no one to be fixed.
Right.
I spent most of my life trying to fix myself. That's what I did. I was just always endlessly
Mm-hmm.
adding or taking away from what I called myself, just trying to polish up a turd.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that that obviously can be misunderstood or misinterpreted, which is, that's not, it's just, that's the way it's perceived by a self, right? Because people want you to, you know, respond in expected ways or whatever. And even that's beautiful. There's not, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, well, that couldn't be otherwise. Yeah.
right. And there's nothing personal in that either, that they have, you know,
No,
expectations.
I mean, there is absolutely, there's nothing personal, but of course, self takes everything personally.
Right.
And that's just as it is. That can't be helped either. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mary Rose. Wow, thanks for coming, everyone. Lovely to see you all. There are still a few places for my talk in Brighton on April the 13th. If you'd like to go to Brighton to be with us on Saturday, the 13th of April, then just email me and book a place. I'm hoping to do a talk in London in March, but I haven't actually got a date for that. So hopefully I'll be able to tell you that next week. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Tim and Darren.
Thank you, Tim and Darren.
Thank you, team.
And I will say, if you ever want, you know, if you'd like a longer chat and you'd like to, I don't know, if you'd like a one-to-one, then you just go to my website. You can book a one-to-one if you'd like to. And it does say 50 quid to book one, but that's negotiable if that's too much. I'm very happy to speak to anyone who'd like a chat about this.
Thanks, Tim.
I enjoy it. All right, take
What's
care,
a quid?
everyone.
What's a quid? I'm just kidding.
What's a quid? It's a buck. It's a buck. What's a buck? 50 quid. 50 quid is about 60 bucks.
All right. Sounded like squid.
Yeah, 50 squid. Yeah.
Or 60 antlered animals.
Is 50, Darren? Is 50 a monkey?
Oh, I don't know. I think it might be.
I think it's a monkey in Cockney rhyming slang.
Mm-hmm.
That might be 100, but I think it's 50. So in London, my grandfather was a Cockney, and he talked in rhyming slang all the time. Which is, I mean, it was like a street code in the Victorian street code for petty criminals. That's how I saw it. He was a milkman and a petty criminal.
A monkey is £500.
Oh, 500, not 50.
Yeah, a pony is 25. A pony's 25 quid.
A pony, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Pony and Trap is also for going to do number twos.
Oh, right, yeah.
My grandfather would go, yeah, I'm just going for a pony.
Pony and Trap.
That's a nice way to say that.
Yes.
I hope this fits in the recording.
Oh, I am recording still. Oh, I am. Yeah.
Well, that's the best part.
Oh, genius.